Welcome to this channel. Mau belajar bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris dengan cara yang seru, santai, dan mudah dipahami? You're in the right place. Belajar kosakata dan ekspresi sehari-hari. Learn daily vocabulary and expressions. Dengarkan contoh situasi nyata. Listen to real-life examples. Subscribe sekarang dan nyalakan notifikasi. Let's learn together and have fun.
Okay, let's kick things off. Imagine this really common situation. You need to make a quick call. Say, ask a friend, hey, can I borrow your phone for a sec?
Right, happens all the time.
Exactly. In that simple, everyday scenario, that's actually our jumping off point today for this deep dive.
And we're diving into Indonesian language notes specifically.
We are. These notes are from Absolute Beginner S1 S-Tag 10. What's in that Indonesian handbag of yours?
Amazing how much you can get from these beginner lessons, isn't it? Language structure, culture.
Totally. So inside this resource, we've got a short Indonesian English dialogue, some vocabulary, sample sentences, a grammar focus, and a cultural bit too.
A nice little package.
Yeah. And our mission basically is to explore this seemingly simple exchange to find some genuinely interesting things about Indonesian language and culture.
We're going to focus specifically on asking permission.
And that little word, ya. We want to give you some of those aha moments, but, keep it digestible.
Makes sense. Those foundational interactions often reveal so much.
Okay, so let's get right into the dialogue. Edie starts. He says, Mbak, boleh pinjam HP.
Which translates to, sister, may I borrow your cell phone?
And right away, the notes flag something important, that word boleh. It's an auxiliary verb, and it's all about signaling permission. It's the may, or can I, in this context.
It's quite efficient, really. A polite way to ask directly.
Then Tootie replies, sebentar dulu.
Just a moment.
Yeah, simple enough. But then she seems to be looking in her bag, asking, apa di dalam tas ini?
What's here in this bag? Like she's checking what's inside before handing it over.
But that little pause, that search, it adds a touch of realism,
Definitely. It's not just transactional.
So Edie spots something, itu sermon.
That's a mirror.
And Tootie keeps looking, ada sapu tangan juga, terus.
There's a handkerchief as well. And then you can almost picture her rummaging.
Yeah. And notice the juga there.
Meaning to, or also a simple connector.
Exactly. Then Edie points out, ada kunci mobilnya.
Those are your car keys.
And that little phrase, mobilnya, we'll circle back to that one. It's important for the grammar bit.
Okay, got it.
Finally, Tootie finds it. Di mana HP itu? Oh ya, ini.
Where's that cell phone? Oh yes, this. That, oh yeah, that moment of finding something. Very relatable.
Totally. And the whole thing wraps up with Edie saying, makasih, Mbak.
Thanks, sister.
And the notes explain Mbak is like sister, or just a polite term for a woman. So polite request, quick search, polite thank you, simple structure.
But packed with useful bits, even just in the dialogue flow.
Right. So let's look at some key vocabulary that came up.
Beyond the items in the bag, like sermon and suppletangan.
Yeah, we had di dalam, meaning inside. Makes sense with the bag.
Tas is bag.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
And pinjam, which is to borrow. Crucial for that first line.
And the sample sentences they provide really help cement these, I think.
Absolutely. Like they show boleh again. Boleh saya pakai penghapus karetmu?
Can I use your eraser?
And boleh minta kopi?
May I have coffee? Reinforces that permission aspect of boleh.
Right. And that phrase, sebentar dulu, just a minute, they show it again. Sebentar dulu mau minum air. Just a minute. I want some water. Shows its use for a short pause in another context. Very practical.
Then there's an interesting one. Ada keras di dalam keraton.
There is a keras dagger in the keraton.
Now, a keras is a traditional Indonesian dagger, often quite ornate, and the keraton is a royal palace.
So this sentence, while showing di dalam again, also gives a little cultural flavor.
Exactly. It's a reminder that language is embedded in culture, in history.
Good point.
We also saw possessives like das saya rusak, my bag is broken, and that brings us back to the dialogue's kunci mobilnya.
The car keys, which leads us perfectly into the grammar focus.
Yes, the grammar focus is on ya. The notes call it a rather infamous bound morpheme.
Infamous.
Yes.
Because it does so many different things, right?
Precisely. It's not simple. The main example uses that line. Ada kunci mobilnya.
Which they translate as, those are your car keys. So in this case, nya is showing possession. Third person possession, specifically your or his, depending on context, though here it implies tuti's keys.
But, and this is the tricky part, it's not always third person possession.
Right. The notes mention it can sometimes be second person your too.
And it can even act like a definite article, kind of like the in English, making the noun specific.
Yeah, like making it the car keys as opposed to just any car keys.
And sometimes it's a bit vague exactly which function it's serving.
Which is kind of fascinating, actually. So the main takeaway isn't necessarily to pin down every single use right now.
No, probably not.
But more to appreciate that this tiny suffix nya is incredibly versatile. Its meaning really depends on the context.
Exactly. It shows how languages can pack a lot of grammatical information into very small elements.
Okay, so we've walked through the dialogue, picked out some vocab, and tackled the basics of the multi-talented nya. Now let's shift to that cultural insight section. It's about Indonesian cell phones, or as they call them, HP.
Hand phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, this ties back directly to Edie wanting to borrow one.
Right. The notes explain that HP is just the standard term for mobile phone in Indonesia. And it highlights something important about access.
Which is?
Well, for a long time, traditional landlines were pretty expensive, not something everyone could easily afford.
Ah, okay. So mobiles filled that gap.
Exactly. Mobile phones became a much more widespread and affordable way for many Indonesians to communicate.
That context really underlines why borrowing an HP might be a common occurrence, or why owning one is so essential.
Definitely. And there's another layer to this cost saving.
How so?
The insight mentions that because calls can still cost money, many people in Indonesia tend to prefer using text messages, SMS.
Ah, texting over calling to keep the bills down.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's a really practical adaptation, isn't it? Shows how economic factors shape communication habits.
It really does. Fascinating detail.
So it brings that opening dialogue full circle. Edie needing Tuti's HP reflects this everyday reality of mobile phone importance and usage patterns in Indonesia.
It makes you think about the invisible forces, like economics and infrastructure, that shape our own communication styles too.
Good point. Okay, so let's just quickly wrap up what we've covered in this dive into lesson 10.
We went through a basic Indonesian conversation.
Learned how to ask permission politely using bola.
Got a first look at that versatile suffix, yeah?
And picked up a cultural insight about why HP or mobile phones are so significant in Indonesia, including the preference for SMS.
Not bad for exploring one short beginner's lesson. It shows how much depth there can be.
Absolutely. It really underscores that language learning is so much more than just words and rules.
Culture, context, practicality. It's all woven together.
Which leads us to a final thought to maybe chew on. We saw how a simple act like borrowing a phone opened up insights into Indonesian language and culture. So, what other everyday phrases or common interactions, maybe even in our own language, might hold similar hidden depths or stories if we just, look a little closer?
That's a great question. Makes you want to pay more attention to the simple stuff.
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.